After a whole month without seeing her husband come crawling back and beg, the CEO wife, busy spending time with her first love, finally sensed something was wrong. She asked her assistant, "I signed the divorce papers on purpose to show him he's replaceable. Didn't he make a scene?" But the assistant looked totally confused. "Boss, Mr. Gu divorced you 2 months ago. You didn't know?" Only then did Su Mingyao remember. 3 months ago when she forced me to divorce her for her first love for the 99th time, I just smiled and signed. But Su Mingyao just looked at me with contempt. She thought I was bluffing again, then went back to her room like nothing happened, and kept up the Cold War. Even worse, just to get under my skin. She moved in with her first love with our daughter. But I didn't get mad at all. I took the divorce papers and went straight to the courthouse. "Mr. Gu, this divorce agreement is valid. Once it's signed, your marriage will be legally dissolved in 1 month." I sat at my computer and contacted legal aid. Once I got the answer I wanted, I thanked them and logged off. I limped to the door and opened it. A stack of photos dropped from the top of the frame, and the sharp edges cut my cheek. I stared blankly at the family photo. My wife, Su Mingyao, was smiling brightly with a tenderness I'd never seen before we got married. The daughter I'd raised for 5 years, Yaya, looked so happy it was practically spilling over. The joke was, the man in that family photo wasn't me. It was Song Yuchen, Su Mingyao's first love. Obviously, Yaya put it there as a prank. Ever since Song Yuchen came back 6 months ago, I felt like dead weight in this house. Today is my birthday, and our 5th wedding anniversary. Su Mingyao picked a fight over nothing, told me to stay home and reflect, then left with our daughter. Later, I saw on Song Yuchen's social media that the 3 of them had gone to an amusement park and were having a blast like a real family of 3. In the photo, Su Mingyao, who's normally a total clean freak, was kneeling on the ground fixing Song Yuchen's pant leg. That image felt like a knife going straight through my heart. It hurt so bad I could barely breathe. I gave everything to this family only to end up paving the way for someone else. The thought left me overwhelmed with bitterness. I sat at the table, watching the candles on my birthday cake burn all the way down. Then my vision went black. I don't know how much time passed before the living room lights suddenly came on. Su Mingyao and Yaya walked in. The moment she saw me, disgust flashed across her eyes. Su Mingyao threw the gift box in her hand at me and snapped, "Who told you to cook with lard? You know I eat light. Don't let it happen again. This is your birthday gift." Then she lifted her chin and waited for me to thank her. I glanced at the box and laughed bitterly. The so-called gift was just a freebie watch. The one that actually cost money, Song Yuchen had already shown off on social media. A Patek Philippe XL. When Su Mingyao saw I didn't react, she lost it. "I bust my ass outside making money for this family. You don't help with anything and now you're giving me attitude? I should have never married a loser like you. You're sleeping in the storage room tonight and don't expect my forgiveness until you admit you were wrong." Then she stormed off into the room. Yaya giggled, dumped the cake on my head and said proudly, "I went to the amusement park with Uncle Song today. It was so much fun. You're just the nanny who takes care of me. Hurry up and divorce my mom and get out." I looked at the daughter I'd raised so carefully, the one I'd panic over if she even got a tiny scrape. Now she didn't even bother hiding how much she hated me. A chill ran through me. Wolves' cubs really can't be tamed. Yaya hadn't always been like this. How could a 5-year-old know all this on her own? Ever since Song Yuchen came back 6 months ago, he'd been secretly teaching her how to torment me. But what chilled me the most was Su Mingyao's reaction. She knew exactly how much I'd done for this family, yet she still let our daughter talk to me like that. Seeing that I still didn't react, Yaya laughed and said, "Uncle Song was right, you really are useless, you don't even get mad. Serves you right." Then she skipped back to her room. The living room went quiet again. I still didn't say a word. There was no point hoping for anything from that heartless mother and daughter anymore. I slowly got up and limped to the tiny storage room by the stairs. It was the only place in this house where I had any freedom, because those 2 never came in here. I tossed Su Mingyao's gift straight into the trash, then pulled a document out of the drawer. Last week, Su Mingyao and I got into a huge fight over Song Yuchen. Right there on the spot, she threw a divorce agreement at me. She was so sure I couldn't leave her, so she kept finding ways to humiliate me, and Yaya played right along. This time I finally understood. A cold stone will never warm up, and an ungrateful wolf is still a wolf. I picked up the pen and signed the papers in one clean motion. My wife, my daughter, this whole family. I don't want any of it anymore. The obsession that had been weighing on me for 7 years was finally gone, and my body felt lighter. I used to lie awake every night, but now all I felt was sleepiness. Too bad, right when I was about to fall asleep, a hand landed on my waist and started gently rubbing it. I opened my eyes and saw the desire in Su Mingyao's eyes. I knew what she wanted. I was always the one who made the first move before, and Su Mingyao would just go along with it, annoyed. But now that she was finally the one initiating, I felt nothing. My body didn't respond at all. The woman in front of me felt cold as ice. Su Mingyao frowned and asked, "What's wrong with you?" I moved her hand away and closed my eyes again. Su Mingyao was shaking with anger, like she had just been humiliated. She snapped, "Are you still mad about what happened earlier? I already explained it. Yun Yichen is in the past. Why are you still hung up on it?" The only response she got was my slow, steady breathing. In the dim storage room, Su Mingyao's eyes burned with rage. She gritted her teeth and said, "Don't push it! Next time, don't come begging me." Then the door slammed shut, and I didn't react at all. I wasn't like before. When the second Su Mingyao got upset, I'd panic, try to please her, and even beg for forgiveness. Now that I'd let go of that obsession, her emotions couldn't control me anymore. That night, I slept like a rock. For the first time in 7 years, I finally got a good night's sleep. Early the next morning, instead of making breakfast for the mother and daughter right away, I made myself a cup of tea and enjoyed a little freedom. I scrolled through my phone, hoping to enjoy the next 29 days, and stop wasting tears on that mother and daughter. Song Yuchen had updated his moments again. "What you never forget always finds its way back. Whenever I need him, he always shows up right on time. Thank God for this gift." The photo showed a tall figure making porridge in the kitchen, with a little heart edited onto it. I could tell right away the woman making the porridge was Su Mingyao. She was wearing pajamas and there was a red mole on her left wrist. Ever since we got married, Su Mingyao had always been a clean freak who stayed far away from the kitchen. She had never cooked a single meal for me, and now she was making porridge for her first love, looking like she'd done it 100 times. The whole scene looked way too peaceful, but I felt surprisingly calm. I just glanced at it and locked my phone. Whether Su Mingyao was doing it on purpose to get back at me for rejecting her last night, or just couldn't wait to be with her first love again, I didn't care anymore. Then an annoyed voice came from behind me. Yaya walked out of the bedroom and saw that the carefully made breakfast that was usually waiting on the table wasn't there. Her little face filled with anger as she yelled at me, "I'm hungry. Go make breakfast now." I turned around and looked at her coldly. Even at 5 years old, she already carried the same arrogance as her mother. They had always treated me like the housemaid in this family. I pointed at the fridge and said flatly, "Go get it yourself." Yaya froze. She had never seen this side of me before, and for a second she didn't know what to do. But then she remembered who she thought she was. She shouted, "You're my nanny! If you don't cook for me, I'll tell my mom to punish you!" I looked at Yaya calmly. A little wolf cub is still a wolf cub. The more I gave in, the worse she got. Good thing I had already stopped expecting anything from her. If you're hungry, go find your Uncle Song. My good mood was ruined, and I couldn't be bothered with her screaming. I went back to my room to pack up my things. Everything that belonged to me had to go. I was making room for Yoon Yichin. Over the years, Zumeng Yao hadn't given me many gifts, but even the cheap little things I used to treasure like they meant everything. Now they just made me sick. I packed all those gifts into a bag and walked out of the villa, only to run into Su Meng Yao, who had just come back after being out all night. She froze, and guilt and awkwardness flashed in her eyes. She looked like she wanted to explain herself, but I ignored her and walked straight to the trash can. Su Meng Yao frowned and said unhappily, "Yoon Yichin had a depression episode last night, so I went to comfort him. Don't overthink it. Since I admitted it, that means I have nothing to hide." I didn't want to hear any more of Su Meng Yao's fake excuses, so I tossed the bag into the trash. I used too much force and a stuffed toy fell out. Su Meng Yao recognized it immediately. Her face changed, and she asked in disbelief, "What do you mean by this?" For some reason, my silence made her feel a strange sense of panic. My expression didn't change. I smiled and said, "It's gotten moldy. Leaving it in the house will just breed bacteria. It's not good for your health, so I threw it out." Su Meng Yao looked confused, but she didn't think too much about it and just went inside. I stayed outside and waited until the garbage truck took all those gifts away, making sure there was no chance of them ever being brought back, before I finally turned around and went back into the villa. Su Meng Yao pulled out a box of porridge from the bag and casually dropped it on the table. Then she said, "I did overreact yesterday, but you shouldn't have made things hard for Yichin. I made this porridge for you myself. Finish it, then go apologize to him." Su Meng Yao had never lifted a finger around the house. She clearly thought I'd be so touched I'd cry. I just stared at that bowl of cold porridge and laughed at myself inside. How pathetic did I have to be for her to treat my dignity like trash? This was just Yichin's leftovers. Su Meng Yao brought them to me like some kind of reward. I looked at it calmly and said nothing. Su Meng Yao looked annoyed and snapped, "I'm already giving you an out here. Don't be ungrateful. I'm already stressed out enough making money every day. Can you stop making a scene at home and act like you've got some perspective?" I said flatly, "I'm allergic to seafood." Su Meng Yao froze. She finally remembered, and a flash of embarrassment crossed her face. But the second she saw the look on my face, she got mad again. "So what if you're allergic to seafood? It's not gonna kill you. Why are you so high maintenance?" When she saw I still wouldn't back down, like I didn't know when to quit, she completely lost it. She grabbed the porridge and forced it into my mouth. I didn't expect her to go that far. I'd already swallowed a good amount before I threw up on the floor. My seafood allergy is severe. Even a tiny bit can trigger a reaction. By then, I could barely breathe. I was lying on the floor in agony. My throat was swelling up with blisters and my skin was breaking out in hives. Su Meng Yao sneered. "What? Are you pretending now? Always trying to play games with me. You think you're some handsome guy like Yichin? You're just an old crippled loser. I'm handing you a way out, so take it. Otherwise I'll kick you out of this house, and no amount of begging is gonna help. Mom, get revenge for Uncle." Yaya walked up and kicked me, grinning like it was the funniest thing in the world. Su Meng Yao said coldly, "Pull this again and don't blame me for turning on you." Su Meng Yao left with our daughter without even looking at me. The villa went silent. Outside, the hum of the engine sounded like a death sentence. I started suffocating, and with the last bit of strength I had, I finally called 911. I held on for more than 10 minutes before blacking out. When I woke up, I was in a hospital room. The sharp smell of disinfectant told me I barely made it. Thinking about how Su Meng Yao left without a second thought and dumped me on the floor to die. Even though I'd already given up on that mother and daughter, it still hurt so bad I could barely breathe. Still, there was one good thing. In 28 more days, I'd finally be free. I could go somewhere far away from that vicious mother and daughter, somewhere by the ocean, somewhere warm and peaceful, and finally live like a happy person. I was in the hospital for 3 days, and Su Meng Yao didn't call once. I wasn't heartbroken. Honestly, I was relieved. No more waiting on that cold-hearted mother and daughter. No more looking at that disgusting little fake family of 3. Honestly, it felt pretty good. When the doctor said I could be discharged, I actually didn't want to leave. If I could have stayed another 20-something days, I could have walked out of here and straight out of this city. When I got home, the whole villa was empty. Milk on the floor had gone sour, the air reeked, and the bloodstains left behind had turned dark. It was hard to look at. Then it hit me. Su Meng Yao had taken our daughter to be with her first love, and they hadn't come home for days. No wonder she hadn't contacted me. This was her usual move. Anytime I didn't do what she wanted, she'd disappear for a few days and wait for me to come crawling back. I thought about the twisted look on her face when she forced that seafood porridge into my mouth. It was like the image was burned into my mind. It made me realize just how ugly a person can really be. Then Song Yichin updated his social media again. He posted a photo of the 3 of them walking on the beach hand in hand, looking like some perfect little family. If this had happened before, I probably would have lost my mind with jealousy. But now, I felt absolutely nothing. Those 3 were made for each other. Once I leave, I just hope they stay locked together and don't ruin anyone else's life. I had just locked my phone when I got a voice message. "Yaya, you came to the beach with Uncle to relax. If your dad finds out, do you think he'll get mad?" It was Song Yichin's voice. "He's just an ugly nanny. He has no right to control me. All the other kids at kindergarten have tall, handsome dads. My dad's a cripple. He's embarrassing." Yaya's voice was full of hatred. "So who do you like more, Uncle or your dad?" "Obviously Uncle Song. I wish my dad would hurry up and get divorced and get out of this house so Uncle Song can be with Mom. Mom actually likes you a lot. I like you too. Uncle Song, can you be my new daddy?" Song Yichin pretended to hesitate. "That wouldn't be good, would it? If your dad heard that, it'd break his heart." Yaya let out a cold laugh. "Good. He should die. He only lost a leg trying to save me. It would have been better if he'd just been run over completely." I was already disappointed in my daughter, but hearing those vicious words still sent a chill through my whole body. She sounded so young, still childish. So how could she be that cold? That cruel. Then Song Gichin sent another voice message. Meng Yao and your daughter's hearts are with me now. How do you still have the nerve to stay? Just get lost. My heart was already shattered, so his taunting didn't move me at all. I didn't break down the way he clearly wanted me to. I just calmly gathered the gift I'd prepared for Yaya and tossed it straight into the trash. The woman who almost got me killed didn't care whether I lived or died. She ran off to Sonya with her first love like nothing happened. And the daughter I'd raised for 5 years cursed me to die just so she could get herself a new dad. I glanced at my ruined left leg and laughed at myself. Maybe this was karma for being the ultimate simp. I checked the date. There were only 20 days left until I was finally free. For those 20 days I was going to treat myself right. I traveled around and saw a lot of the city. I drifted down the Liujiang River, visited Liuhu Temple, and even went up Yunding Mountain to watch the sunrise. Standing on a boat moving across the river, taking in the scenery, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. That's when I realized my old life had never really been living at all. I'd just been treated like a servant. But time, life, death, none of that was ever really mine to control. After coming back from Yunding Mountain, I picked the most expensive lakeside restaurant I could find. All these years of marriage, Su Mengyao had looked down on me for being disabled, like I wasn't fit to be seen in public. But when I helped her rebuild her career, I'd managed to save quite a bit of money, and I even owned 5% of the company. I took the best window seat in the place, and enjoyed the lake view and the food. For once it actually felt like living. But that feeling disappeared the second I saw the three of them walk in. As soon as Su Mengyao and the others showed up, they drew almost everyone's attention. The two of them looked like the perfect couple, and with that cute little kid in the middle they really looked like a family. Maybe they came to places like this all the time, because they seemed to know a lot of people. Before long, they joined another table. So this is Mr. Su? Wow, your husband's really handsome, you never bring him around. What, scared someone's gonna steal him? Su Mengyao blushed a little and quietly glanced at Song Yichin, but she didn't deny it. Song Yichin chatted with everyone like he belonged there. He was smooth, well-spoken, and his looks only made people like him more. Yaya kept backing him up too, calling him dad over and over. The three of them soaked in all that praise like they were a real family. Su Mengyao never noticed me sitting not far away. I watched the whole thing quietly, with no real reaction at all, gently swirling my glass. They'd just gotten back from Sonya, so I figured they must have had a great time. I thought about leaving, but somehow that would have made me look like the other man, so I stayed where I was and looked out at the view. After Song Yichin finished making the rounds, he suddenly spotted me. His eyes lit up, and he leaned over to whisper in Su Mengyao's ear, "These past few days, thank you. Without you, I honestly don't know what I would have done." Su Mengyao quickly said, "Yichin, don't say that. We don't have to be so formal with each other, okay?" Song Yichin deliberately leaned in closer, his face almost brushing hers, making it look as intimate as possible. Su Mengyao's heart started racing, and she lowered her head to stare at her wine glass. Then cheers broke out around them. Their friends started chanting, "Kiss! Kiss!" Yaya clapped her little hands. Su Mengyao shot Song Yichin a half-playful glare, like she was blaming him, but she looked like she wanted to say something and stopped herself. I got Song Yichin all worked up, and seeing me watching from not far away only made it feel even more thrilling. He went straight in and pressed his lips against Su Mengyao's, kissing her recklessly. Her eyes widened. At first, she resisted and tried to push him away, but under Song Yichin's passion, she slowly got lost in it. Cheers broke out across the restaurant for the lovey-dovey couple. I was the only one still sitting there, watching their little act with a cold expression, feeling absolutely nothing. Su Mengyao looked dazed, holding Song Yichin tightly, her face glowing with happiness. I had never seen that side of her before. So Su Mengyao was never really cold. It just depended on who she was with. In front of me, she was always this untouchable queen. But in front of Song Yichin, she was soft and gentle. The way they looked together, it seemed like wedding bells weren't far off. Thinking about how I'd been tiptoeing around the divorce made the whole thing feel ridiculous. So I got up and headed for the door, figuring that when Su Mengyao got home that night, she'd probably be the one to bring up divorce first. Su Mengyao looked up and happened to catch me leaving. A flicker of panic crossed her face, and she instinctively started to get up. She clearly hadn't expected to run into me at the restaurant, and her brows tightened. Song Yichin noticed her reaction. Seeing how much she seemed to care about a cripple like me made him feel irritated. "I'm sorry, you're just too irresistible. I couldn't help myself. That guy just now seemed like he got the wrong idea. Maybe I should go apologize to him." Su Mengyao's face darkened and she snorted. "Who cares? Instead of staying home and reflecting, all he knows how to do is get jealous. Forget him. He can think whatever he wants." After saying that, she sat back down. But my lonely figure kept flashing through her mind, and she was so distracted she couldn't even hear what Song Yichin was saying anymore. Su Mengyao's expression kept changing. In the end, she sent me a message. "Where are you?" Song Yichin had thought he had everything locked down, but he could clearly tell that through the rest of the evening, Su Mengyao was distracted, constantly checking her phone and waiting for my reply. The get-together ended quickly. Su Mengyao left with her reluctant daughter and turned down Song Yuchin's movie invitation before hurrying home. I had just gotten back and sat on the couch drinking water when she walked in right after me. Our eyes met. Su Mengyao took a deep breath, clearly bracing herself for me to start something. But after a long standoff, the accusation she expected never came. She noticed how calm I was, way too calm, and her face darkened. The only reason she had rushed out and turned Song Yichin down was because she still felt a little guilty. But now I was sitting there with a dead look on my face, and just seeing that annoyed her. She frowned, pulled a gift box out of her bag, tossed it onto the couch and said, "If it weren't for you, Yuchin's depression wouldn't have flared up, and I wouldn't have had to go keep him company. Not only did you not apologize, you even followed us to the restaurant. Seriously, how disgusting can you get?" I didn't even look at the gift. I just stared at Su Mengyao's face, wondering when she'd finally bring up divorce so I could pack my things and leave. But she seemed to have conveniently forgotten what happened at the restaurant, and dumped all the blame on me instead. I let out a sigh. Looks like ending this marriage early wasn't happening. I'd still have to wait another 20 days. Su Mengyao's expression shifted slightly. In the past, the second she got mad, I'd panic and give in no matter what. Even if she twisted black into white, I'd still just keep apologizing. But now, even though I was standing right in front of her, I felt far away. She couldn't read me anymore. Su Mengyao hated that feeling of losing control over me and said coldly, "I've told you so many times, Song Yichin is just a friend. Why can't you let it go? Instead of obsessing over this, why don't you spend that energy improving yourself? I smiled and nodded. You're right, I really should work on myself. Su Mengyao froze. She was sure I was jealous, but she couldn't bring herself to mention the restaurant, so she just exploded and swept everything off the table. I only watched quietly and didn't try to stop her. Through gritted teeth, Su Mengyao snapped, "Can you stop making that face? Every time I come home I'm exhausted and then I still have to deal with your attitude. Have you ever stopped to think? Without me, could you even live this kind of comfortable life? If it weren't for our daughter, I would have kicked you out a long time ago. A cripple like you would starve to death on the street." I listened to all of Su Mengyao's personal attacks and didn't argue back. All I said helplessly was, "Didn't I already tell you? I'm fine." Su Mengyao went quiet for a second. In her mind, I was obviously throwing a fit, and the fact that she'd rushed home to explain herself should have been more than enough. Listen carefully. You owe Yuchen an apology. If you don't apologize, you can stay in the storage room forever. Do you know what you look like right now? A sewer rat. Su Mengyao stormed upstairs and Yaya shot me a glare. Lifting her little chin, she said with disgust, "You're the bad guy. You made Uncle Song and Mom mad. Why are you still living here? Hurry up and get divorced and leave. I want Uncle Song to be my dad." I looked into my daughter's eyes and smiled. "Don't worry. Uncle Song will be your dad very soon." After that, I went into the storage room and counted down the days until I could leave. Yaya came and knocked on the door, ordering me to heat up some milk. When it came to that little ingrate, I just closed my eyes. "Go ask your Uncle Song." Yaya got furious and started pounding on the door while cursing at me. But by then, I was already numb to it. I just wanted to leave this home as soon as possible, a place with no love and no warmth. Through the tiny window, I looked out at the night sky. My thoughts had already drifted far away, back to my hometown. Maybe to punish me for being disobedient, Su Mengyao disappeared with our daughter for the next few days. I didn't even have to guess who they were with. It was obviously Song Yuchen. She wanted to make me miserable that way. Before she left, she warned me that if I didn't get on my knees and apologize to Yuchen, she would never come back. I almost said that would be perfect and that it'd be even better if she stayed gone, but I held it in. The divorce cooling off period was almost over, and I didn't want to stir up any extra trouble. So I cleaned up the house. When I had nothing to do, I just lay in the yard and soaked up the sun, completely at ease. In the middle of the night, I got a taunting video from Song Yuchen. In my house, the three of them were wearing matching family pajamas and having a pillow fight. The two adults were hugging Yaya's little head, all smiles, looking happy like a real family. Song Yuchen had been using videos like that to provoke me the whole time, hoping I'd finally pack up and disappear. I didn't reply. Instead, I ordered myself an expensive takeout meal. When Su Mengyao didn't get the apology she wanted from me, she got even angrier. She stayed at Song Yuchen's place the whole time, even arranged for him to move into upper management at the company, and kept showing off their relationship online with vague, suggestive posts. I just found it laughable. Why not just make it official already? Then I remembered Su Mengyao still wasn't divorced yet. But that wouldn't be a problem for long. I'd be giving her exactly what she wanted soon enough. As the days passed, I became completely immune to all her attempts to get under my skin. Even when our daughter got sick and Su Mengyao deliberately called me to bring medicine, I ignored it. All I said was, "If she's sick, take her to a doctor." Then I stopped responding. Su Mengyao flew into a rage and screamed all kinds of ugly things before I hung up. Better to stop wasting energy on people who don't care and start treating myself better. There were only 3 days left in the divorce cooling off period, and I could hardly wait. With Su Mengyao and our daughter gone, life had been peaceful. It was the most comfortable stretch of time I'd had in 7 years. I was already planning to sell the shares I still held, so I wouldn't be left with nothing after going back home. Su Mengyao had always looked down on me and called me useless, but she never stopped to think about who it was that had landed those contracts for the Su family business by drinking glass after glass of high-proof liquor. She'd also forgotten that I still owned 5% of the company. The yearly dividends alone were more than enough to live on. I had already decided to sell my shares and was looking for the right buyer. Since I was leaving, I planned to cut every last tie with them for good. That night, I even ordered a nice bottle of liquor for myself. Then I heard footsteps outside. I thought my delivery had arrived, so I got up and opened the door, only to find Su Mengyao and Yaya standing there. Maybe because the divorce was so close, they looked a little less annoying to me now, but I was still distant. Su Mengyao had stayed away for more than 10 days, waiting for me to lower my head first. But I wasn't the same as before, crying and begging her not to leave. This time, I stayed cold and indifferent. Even Su Mengyao could tell I had changed. For some reason, a sense of unease started creeping into her heart. Oh, I didn't cry or beg her to stay like he used to. Instead, he turned around and walked away coldly. Su Mengyao instantly realized he had really changed. She couldn't explain it, but a strange wave of panic suddenly hit her. The old Gu Huai, the one who always obeyed her, annoyed her. But this distant, indifferent version of him made her even more uneasy. It wasn't that Su Mengyao truly cared that much about Gu Huai. She just believed he would never leave her, which was exactly why she kept hurting him without restraint. This time, she came home early on purpose, hoping to throw Gu Huai a lifeline. She thought he'd be overwhelmed with gratitude. But what she saw instead was the disappointment written all over his face. Su Mengyao's expression immediately darkened. She clearly hadn't expected that kind of reaction from him. She even laughed in anger, mocking him for acting like he didn't want them back, and hinting that maybe he had another woman in the house. Gu Huai couldn't even be bothered to explain. He turned and headed straight for the storage room. The one who cheated was Su Mengyao, yet she still assumed Gu Huai was just like her. Watching him walk away, Su Mengyao felt that loss of control growing stronger and stronger. A kind of panic she had never felt before started rising in her chest. Especially when she saw him limping, she suddenly remembered the time her family went bankrupt. Everyone left her, and only Gu Huai stayed by her side. But Gu Huai no longer cared what she thought. He stayed in the storage room until night, assuming she and her daughter would go see Song Yuchen. But when he came out, he found a full table of food. In the kitchen, Su Mengyao was still busy cooking. She told him the soup would be ready in a minute. Gu Huai froze, his expression complicated. This was exactly the kind of warm family scene he had dreamed of for years but never had. He sat down and looked at the food in front of him, but never picked up his chopsticks. For once, Su Mengyao actually asked if he was okay. Gu Huai calmly reminded her that he was allergic to seafood. But the whole table was filled with seafood, all of it Song Yuchen's favorites. She remembered everything about him, but somehow never remembered Gu Huai. Su Mengyao's face instantly stiffened. But this time, instead of blowing up, she just felt like Gu Huai was becoming harder and harder to read. Maybe it was guilt finally catching up to her, or maybe it was the bond they once built through hard times. Either way, for the first time, she held back and didn't make things harder for him. Gu Huai watched all of it and only felt how strange and ironic it was. Even Su Mengyao suddenly holding back felt unfamiliar to him. Then, to his surprise, she even put food in his bowl. Even Yaya looked stunned. She couldn't believe her mom was being this nice to someone she had always treated like a live-in nanny. Then Su Mengyao took out 2 movie tickets, saying she wanted to make up for missing his birthday. Gu Huai just looked at the tickets and didn't take them. He knew exactly what this was. Su Mengyao had sensed something was off, and this was just her usual way of smoothing things over. Just as she was about to say more, footsteps came from outside. Song Yichin showed up at the door with a bag of toys. The second Yaya saw him, she ran over in excitement. She even sweetly called him Dad, twice. That instantly changed Su Mengyao's expression. She quickly stopped Yaya and told her not to say that again. But Yaya stubbornly said she wanted Uncle Song to be her dad, and that she didn't like Gu Huai, the crippled nanny. Su Mengyao's face turned ugly with anger, and she immediately dragged Yaya back to the room to scold her. Song Yichin meanwhile glanced at the movie tickets on the table, his eyes full of jealousy. He started throwing sarcastic jabs at Gu Huai, saying he'd make him see for himself who Su Mengyao really cared about. Gu Huai stayed calm and just looked at him coldly. He even said clearly that he was done fighting and didn't care anymore. But Song Yichin didn't believe a word of it. In his eyes, the only reason Gu Huai was still there was because he couldn't let go of the Su family's money and status. Then Song Yichin smugly revealed the truth. That seafood porridge from last time was brought back on purpose because of him. Hearing that, Gu Huai felt his heart turn cold. Even Song Yichin remembered his seafood allergy, yet Su Mengyao had been used like a weapon against him again and again without even realizing it. Before Gu Huai could say anything, Su Mengyao came back out with her daughter. As if trying to patch things up, she told Gu Huai she had already disciplined Yaya and said she'd still go see the movie with him later. But the second Song Yichin heard that, he panicked and jumped in saying he had come specifically to invite Su Mengyao to a movie. Su Mengyao hesitated. She had already noticed Gu Huai was different, and she was afraid that if she sided with Song Yichin again, she might really lose him. After a brief pause, she still turned Song Yichin down. She said she had already promised Gu Huai, so it would have to wait until next time. With that, she turned and went upstairs to change. That rejection completely threw Song Yichin off. For the first time, he sensed that he might actually be losing his place in Su Mengyao's heart. So he turned to Gu Huai and angrily demanded to know what trick he had used. Gu Huai couldn't care less. To him, fighting over someone like this had long since become meaningless. But the more silent Gu Huai stayed, the more Song Yichin felt provoked, and his expression became more and more unhinged. Then, without warning, he lunged forward and force-fed Gu Huai the seafood porridge. Gu Huai went into a severe allergic reaction almost immediately. His throat started swelling, his body broke out in hives, and he struggled for air as he curled up on the floor in pain. And Song Yichin just stood there grinning as if this was exactly the outcome he wanted. Even worse, he then dropped to the floor and pretended to be the victim. And right at that moment, Su Mengyao came downstairs. Song Yichin immediately started screaming and rolling on the ground. Su Mengyao looked at the 2 men on the floor. One was Gu Huai, covered in hives and barely breathing. The other was her first love, clutching his head and crying in pain. Gu Huai forced himself to remind her that the doctor had already warned him. If he had another allergic reaction so soon, it could kill him. Barely hanging on, he begged Su Mengyao to take him to the hospital right away. At first, she actually nodded. But the moment she pulled out her phone, Song Yichin's cries cut her off again. He acted like he was in unbearable pain, shouting that he couldn't hold on anymore. Then Yaya stepped in too, accusing Gu Huai of provoking Uncle Song on purpose. She insisted Gu Huai was faking it, and begged her mom to take Uncle Song to the hospital first. Hearing that, Su Mengyao's expression completely changed. She glared at Gu Huai in anger, feeling utterly disappointed in him. Any thought of making it up to him disappeared on the spot. In the end, she didn't even give Gu Huai a chance to explain. She took Song Yichin and left, just like that, abandoning Gu Huai where he lay, struggling to breathe. In that moment, staring up at the ceiling, Gu Huai felt the very last bit of light inside him go out. And when Yaya twisted the truth for Song Yichin, he finally gave up for good. But Gu Huai refused to die there. He used every bit of strength he had left to crawl back to the storage room and find the medicine the doctor had prescribed him last time. After that, he called an ambulance and finally blacked out. When he woke up again, the same doctor was standing in front of him. The doctor looked at him and could only sigh, saying, "Young people these days really don't treat their lives like they matter." Gu Huai didn't say anything. He just looked out the window and slowly closed his eyes. By the time the divorce cooling-off period ended and Gu Huai was discharged, Su Mengyao still hadn't called him even once. When he got home, the dried seafood porridge still on the floor looked like a silent reminder of everything that had happened. Without a word, Gu Huai went to the storage room, picked up the bags he had packed long ago, placed the divorce papers on the table, and headed straight for the train station. Sitting in the waiting area, he finally made up his mind to end it all. Then the phone rang. It was Su Mengyao calling to lash out at him. "Gu Huai, you're really heartless. Song Yichin had a depressive episode because of you. You won't even come apologize, and now you're hiding? I'm telling you, if you don't come kneel and apologize, I'm divorcing you." Gu Huai just smiled. "Fine by me." Then a station announcement came on nearby. "Where are you?" Su Mengyao's tone changed instantly, and there was panic in her voice. Gu Huai hung up without hesitation, pulled out his SIM card, tossed it into the trash, and headed for the ticket gate with his luggage. After getting off, Gu Huai couldn't wait to take a cab back to the old house. It was in a small seaside town. His parents had passed away long ago, and the house they left behind was already overgrown with weeds. He hired a crew to fix it up, planted some flowers in his spare time, and after a month the place finally felt warm again. It wasn't as fancy as the villa he used to live in, but this place was completely his. He no longer had to get up at 5 every morning to make breakfast for Su Mengyao and her daughter. He didn't have to cook hangover soup for her in the middle of the night, get punished for using lard in a dish, or have a whole table of food dumped on him just because the little girl didn't like it. Gu Huai lay on his warm bed, staring out at the ocean through the window. Seagulls soared across the sky, and everything felt free. He had never imagined that one day he'd get to live this kind of life, facing the sea, peaceful and open. After moving into the old house, he didn't want to do anything except sleep and make up for all the rest he'd been missing for years. When he woke up, he'd sit in a lounge chair in the yard, sip tea, and zone out at the sky. And just like that, half a month went by. Standing in front of the mirror, Gu Huai looked at himself. His face had color again, and his whole energy was back. Life after leaving Su Mengyao felt amazing. Another half month passed as he adjusted. He started getting up early, doing Tai Chi and flipping through design magazines. Gu Huai had studied design in school. He once turned down an offer from a well-known design company because of Su Mengyao. Later, after injuring his leg and staying home, he picked design back up and his work slowly started making a name for itself. The moment he signed the divorce papers, Gu Huai had already figured out his next step. Go home and do what he actually loved. That first month wasn't easy. At first, he had nightmares almost every day. He dreamed of going into anaphylactic shock and lying there waiting to die. That suffocating feeling was like a hand clamped around his throat, dragging him back into darkness. It took a while, but eventually, he adjusted. Su Mingyao and her daughter showed up in his mind less and less, until even those memories started fading. He spent a full month healing and getting back to a normal life. And out of that feeling, breaking free and starting over, he created a piece called The Sea. The piece blew up almost right away. Gu Huai turned down every media interview because all he wanted was to create in peace. But as more and more people fell in love with the work, his fame became impossible to hide. His Weibo following jumped by hundreds of thousands overnight. Between his design income and his savings, he now had more than enough to live comfortably. There was one client in particular who really admired his style and kept asking to meet in person. But Gu Huai always refused. Even over the phone, her voice was warm and sincere. She praised his work more than once, and she didn't sound like some cold business person. Even so, when he said no, she didn't get upset. She just said they'd meet when the time was right. One day, Gu Huai was taking his usual walk by the sea when he got a call from the police. "Is this Gu Huai? We found your child." The moment he saw the little girl at the station, Gu Huai froze. Then he looked into those clear, hopeful eyes and finally recognized her. He could only smile bitterly. Ever since Song Yichen came back to the country, Su Mengyao had thrown all her attention onto him. She even kept taking her daughter to see him. Over time, Yaya grew more and more hostile toward Gu Huai and stopped listening to anything he said. One day, Yaya saw a little girl selling flowers on the street and tried to snatch them away. After being scolded, she ran straight into traffic out of spite. Gu Huai rushed in to protect her. Yaya got away with just a scrape, but he paid for it with one of his legs. While he was in the hospital, Su Mengyao took their daughter and went off sightseeing with her first love, leaving Gu Huai alone in that cold hospital room to fend for himself. Yaya even cruelly wished he would just die already, so she could have a new dad. And yet, in that darkest stretch of his life, the only person who came to see him was that little flower-selling girl, Annan. After talking with them, he learned that Annan had a heartbreaking life. Her mom was a single mother with late-stage cancer. Every penny they had went into treatment so she could only survive by selling flowers outside the hospital. Annan had never met her father, but after seeing Gu Huai risk his life to save his daughter, she was deeply moved and asked him if all dads loved their children. Looking at her mother's pleading eyes, Gu Huai finally nodded, and Annan instantly lit up. She said innocently, "Mom told me Dad went to heaven. It's really, really far away. It's not that he doesn't love me. He's just too busy." After that, Annan started visiting Gu Huai at the hospital all the time. When he was at the lowest point in his life, it was this little girl's kindness that gave him warmth again. The two slowly grew close, and every time he saw that stubborn but hopeful look in her eyes, his heart ached for her. Compared to Yaya, Annan was so thoughtful it hurt. After he got out of the hospital, Gu Huai wanted to keep helping her, but when he went looking near the hospital, he heard devastating news. Annan's mother had died in a rental room, and Annan herself had disappeared. Back then, Gu Huai was still caught up in fighting with Su Mengyao. After searching with no results, he eventually had no choice but to let it go. And now, Annan was standing right in front of him again. The moment she saw Gu Huai, she threw herself at him, hugged him tight, and burst into tears. "Dad!" Gu Huai stroked her little head, his eyes instantly turning red. He didn't deny it. He just quietly took her home. After asking around, he learned what had happened. After her mom died, Annan had been tricked and almost sold to Southeast Asia by traffickers. Luckily, the gang turned on each other, and she managed to escape. She found a police officer and said her dad's name was Gu Huai. And by pure chance, that trafficking ring's hideout was right there in the same seaside town. Looking at the thin, fragile little girl in front of him, Gu Huai felt like he was seeing himself. Both of them had lost family. Both had been toyed with by fate. It was as if something bigger had pulled them back together. Right then and there, he made up his mind. He was going to adopt Annan. But when he went to start the paperwork, Gu Huai found out things were nowhere near that simple. Because he was single, he wasn't eligible to adopt a girl unless he got married first. Otherwise, Annan could end up being adopted by someone else. The thought gave him a splitting headache. When he got home and saw the hope in Annan's eyes, he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. Annan was sweet and hardworking. Even at her age, she already knew how to do a lot around the house. If there was even a drop of water on the floor, she'd hurry over with a rag. And when Gu Huai finished cooking, she'd already set out the chairs for him. Gu Huai took Annan out for a walk by the sea. Watching her run ahead then turn back to call for him to catch up felt almost unreal. The golden sunset hung across the horizon like a dream. All those moments he'd imagined having with a child, moments he never got to have with Yaya, were finally coming true with Annan. The two of them sat side by side on the beach, watching the sun sink into the sea. It felt like time itself had stopped. Then Annan turned to him with those bright eyes and asked softly, "Can I call you Dad?" Gu Huai's nose stung, and he gave a quiet nod. Then Annan asked, "Are you going to a faraway place called Heaven too?" Gu Huai gently patted her head and shook his head. Annan instantly relaxed, wrapped herself around his arm, rubbed her little head against him, and called out softly, "Dad." At that, Gu Huai finally broke down and cried. He had lost his wife and his daughter, and now, it felt like heaven had finally shown him some mercy and given him a daughter back. But the second he thought about the adoption process, all that relief turned back into helplessness. He couldn't exactly marry just anyone for the sake of paperwork, and for some reason the first person who came to mind was that female client who had always wanted to meet him. But the thought had barely surfaced before Gu Huai cursed himself for being selfish. With the way things were for him now, the last thing he wanted was to drag someone else into his mess. For the next stretch of time, Gu Huai kept creating while taking care of Annan. He also asked a matchmaker to introduce him to a few women, but the second they heard he was disabled, most of them turned him down before even meeting him. He was frustrated, sure, but it never changed his determination to adopt Annan. That day, after drawing seagulls with Annan by the sea, the two of them headed home laughing and chatting. But the moment they reached the house, two people stepped in front of them. Those familiar faces had haunted Gu Huai's nightmares more times than he could count. More than 4 months later, seeing Su Mengyao and her daughter again still made his heart clench. His first instinct was to turn around and leave, but then he felt Anan's little hand in his palm, and his body slowly straightened. That fear and dread Su Mengyao used to trigger in him started fading away, little by little. Shuji had huge respect for this author, and tried more than once to meet him, but got turned down every time. She figured the man behind the work had to be some older, worldly artist to capture life that vividly. What she didn't expect was a man about her age. After talking for a bit, Shujiri realized Gu Huai wasn't just attractive. He also had a sharp, original take on design, and the second he started talking about the sea, he just lit up. Shujiri rested her chin in her hand and watched him quietly, sometimes giving him a look of admiration and encouragement, other times throwing out insights that made his eyes widen. Before they knew it, they'd been talking from noon into the afternoon. It wasn't until Gu Huai glanced at the time that he hurriedly got up to leave. Thinking he had somewhere important to be, Shujiri offered him a ride. But when the car pulled up outside a kindergarten, and a little girl ran straight into his arms, Shujiri finally understood. He'd been in such a rush because he had to pick up his little girl. In Shujiri's mind, designers were supposed to be lone wolves, people removed from everyday life. But who would have thought the creator of the sea was also a total girl dad? And in that moment, a strange sense of regret flickered through her. If Gu Huai was already married, that was just a shame. The thought had barely crossed her mind before Shujiri panicked. This was their first time meeting, so why was she feeling this way? She forced herself to calm down and stepped out of the car. After Gu Huai introduced them, Anan looked at Shujiri with open curiosity. Then, with the blunt honesty only kids have, Anan asked if this was the new mommy daddy had found for her. Gu Huai was so embarrassed he wished he could disappear on the spot. Shujiri, on the other hand, handled it with total ease. She greeted Anan warmly, swooped her up, and carried her to the car, while Gu Huai could only follow behind awkwardly. Watching the two of them walk ahead side by side, Gu Huai couldn't help drifting into an unrealistic fantasy. But reality hit fast. A divorced man with a disability had no business wanting someone like Shujiri. Back at the little courtyard house, Shujiri played with Anan while Gu Huai worked in the kitchen. Every time he glanced outside and saw them getting along so naturally, he couldn't help but smile. Anan clearly adored Shujiri and didn't want to go to bed until very late. Once things finally quieted down, Gu Huai opened up about Anan's past, and Shujiri felt even more for him. Her feelings only deepened. She couldn't help asking what he planned to do if he couldn't get married in time and wasn't allowed to adopt Anan. Gu Huai looked at Shujiri, and the thought he'd been burying almost slipped out. Shujiri seemed to sense it too and turned away, her ears turning red. Neither of them said it out loud, but in that moment, they both understood. The sea breeze lifted Shujiri's hair, making her look almost unreal, like something out of the night itself. Gu Huai didn't dare stay any longer. Afraid she'd see through him, he got up and left in a hurry. Shujiri watched him practically flee and couldn't help smiling. The next morning, Gu Huai and Shujiri took Anan to kindergarten together. The whole way there, Anan kept glancing back and forth between them, clearly up to something. Gu Huai was about to cough and tell her to behave, but Shujiri just smiled and patted her head, her eyes full of affection. But once they got back home, the mood turned a little awkward. It wasn't as easy and natural as it had been the day before at the cafe. Shujiri only stayed at the little courtyard for 2 days before leaving. On the day she left, Gu Huai didn't want her to go, but he also knew they came from completely different worlds, so he didn't dare hope for much. The second Shujiri was gone, Anan sadly asked if Auntie Shu would ever come visit again. For a moment, Gu Huai had no idea how to answer that. He couldn't bear to hurt the child, so he forced a smile and said, maybe tomorrow, or maybe never again. Life slowly settled back into its usual routine, but Gu Huai still had a clock ticking over his head. There were less than 2 weeks left before the adoption deadline. If he couldn't find someone to marry, Anan would be sent to an orphanage, and that was something he could never accept. So he kept going on blind dates. But reality kept humiliating him. The moment people saw his limp and realized he had a child with him, most of them didn't even think he was worth talking to. That day, just like always, he was about to take Anan to school. But the second he opened the door, he saw Su Mengyao and her daughter standing outside. A month had passed since the last time they met, yet when they showed up again in this seaside town, all they got from Gu Huai was the same cold disgust. Beside her, Yaya shrank back and softly called him dad. Gu Huai just let out a cold laugh and turned to shut the door. He didn't want to give them even the slightest chance. Seeing that, Su Mengyao hurriedly reached out to stop the door and begged Gu Huai for a few minutes, saying she only wanted to talk. But to Gu Huai, this mother and daughter were already the darkest part of his life. After everything he'd been put through that past year, he'd finally learned that the first person he needed to protect was himself. No matter what Su Mengyao said, there was no way he was going back. Gu Huai glanced at the time and coldly told her she had 2 minutes. He had someone to pick up. Su Mengyao looked around the courtyard and for once her voice was soft. She admitted she had gone too far last time. She said this place was actually nice, that Gu Huai always knew how to make a home feel warm. But without him, the house they used to share had turned cold, empty, and lifeless. Gu Huai just let out a cold laugh and said he had zero interest in going back to be their servant again. That hit Su Mengyao hard. Her eyes reddened immediately, and she shook her head over and over, like she'd finally dropped all her pride and just wanted Gu Huai to understand that she'd never truly seen him as a servant. She rushed to explain that she'd been the one in the wrong all along, that she was the one who never knew how to cherish him. It wasn't until he left that she realized she couldn't live without him. She even said she cut Song Yichin out of her life for good, and had already taught Yaya a hard lesson, all in hopes that Gu Huai might give her one more chance. Looking at Gu Huai, Su Mengyao's eyes were filled with hope and desperation. She finally admitted that she had been too slow to see it, and that the person who truly fit her best had always been him. She even begged him to come home, saying both she and Yaya needed him and promising that this time she'd make it up to him. Seeing Su Mengyao standing there so careful and fragile, Gu Huai suddenly thought of the girl she used to be, back when she was on the verge of losing everything, and seemed so heartbreakingly helpless. And just like that, his mind was pulled back 10 years. Back then, they had gone to the same college, but they came from completely different worlds. Gu Huai was just an ordinary kid from a seaside town, while Su Mengyao was a rich girl, adored by everyone, with the campus heartthrob Song Yichin right beside her. But all it took was one small kindness. On freshman orientation day, Su Mengyao had helped Gu Huai once, and that was enough for him to fall for her. He kept those feelings buried the whole time they were in school, until after graduation, when the Su family suddenly went bankrupt and Su Mengyao fell into severe depression. Back then, Gu Huai didn't hesitate for even a second. He turned down a high-paying offer from a major company just to stay by Su Mengyao's side and get her through the darkest period of her life. To help the Su family get back on their feet, Gu Huai gave almost everything he had. He drank himself into gastric bleeding to close small contracts, got 3 ribs broken while shielding Su Mengyao from debt collectors, and even handed over every penny his parents had left him. Those 2 years felt like half a lifetime to Gu Huai, and in the end, it was that almost self-destructive devotion that finally moved Su Mengyao enough to choose him. What he never expected was that, after 7 years of loving her and 5 years of marriage, all he would get in return was a body covered in scars. Twice he had nearly died in that house, and the source of all that pain was the mother and daughter standing right in front of him. That was why Gu Huai couldn't bear to think about the past. He knew the second those old wounds were ripped open, the pain would come flooding back. He thought divorce would finally let him start over, but Su Mengyao still refused to let him go. Right then, Su Mengyao noticed something was wrong and panicked, asking if he was okay. But Gu Huai shoved her away and snapped, telling her not to touch him. In an instant, all color drained from Su Mengyao's face. She knew he hated her, but she hadn't realized his rejection had gotten this deep, to the point where even sharing the same air with her felt unbearable. Then Gu Huai all but screamed at her to get away from him. That shout completely shook Su Mengyao. She quickly pulled her daughter back a few steps, and could only stand there watching him with panic and worry in her eyes. Meanwhile, Gu Huai collapsed to the ground like all the strength had been drained out of him, and those memories of being tortured by Su Mengyao came rushing back. Su Mengyao was convinced Gu Huai had refused to come home before, just because he was jealous. Now that she had come to pick him up herself, she felt she had already given him plenty of face, and that he had no reason to keep acting tough. She stepped into the yard, looked around, and immediately showed her disgust. To her, the yard was way too small, probably not even 1,000 square feet. She mocked Gu Huai for wasting time on flowers and plants, then acted all high and mighty, saying that once he went back, she would buy him a huge villa with a yard big enough for him to do whatever he wanted. She even said that if housework was too tiring, all he had to do from now on was take care of her and Yaya, and leave everything else to the maid. Gu Huai had been holding it together up to that point, but after hearing Su Mengyao say all that, the anger inside him finally boiled over, and his voice turned cold with disgust. He made it clear on the spot that he and Su Mengyao were already divorced, that they had nothing to do with each other anymore, and that she needed to get out. Su Mengyao's face changed instantly. She stared at Gu Huai with open irritation, still acting like she was above him. Right then, Yaya chimed in too. Even though she was just a kid, her attitude was exactly like her mother's, full of arrogance and cruelty. In Yaya's eyes, the fact that her mom had come to get him in person was already a huge concession. If Gu Huai kept pushing it, then he could forget about ever stepping into that home again. When Gu Huai didn't answer right away, Yaya let out a cold laugh, kicked over the sunflowers in the yard, and stomped them to pieces. The way she acted like a little demon scared Annan on the spot. Annan had never seen a kid her age act that vicious, and her whole body started shaking. Gu Huai quickly pulled Annan into his arms and gently tried to calm her down. He softly told her not to be scared, because he was right there with her. After Annan's mother died, she had been kidnapped by traffickers and left with deep trauma. Gu Huai had spent a long time taking her to therapy before she slowly started to recover. But the moment Su Mengyao and Yaya walked in acting all superior, the anger inside him kept building. When Yaya saw that Gu Huai's attention was all on An, she instantly got furious and pointed at An, demanding to know who she was. An was so shaken by that vicious look that she started trembling again, and it broke Gu Huai's heart. Gu Huai coldly told Yaya to shut up. Spoiled and overbearing as always, Yaya had never seen Gu Huai talk to her like that. She exploded on the spot, like a firecracker getting lit. Her eyes turned red as she lunged at An, clawing and screaming, trying to drag her out of Gu Huai's arms. She looked like a little leopard completely out of control. Seeing that, Gu Huai quickly dodged while holding An. Yaya cursed Annan as some random little brat and screamed at Gu Huai to put her down right now and stop holding her. She glared at Annan, then turned and screamed at Gu Huai. In Yaya's mind, Gu Huai was her nanny and hers alone. He was only supposed to be nice to her, not care about anyone else. She even called him a cripple again, just to humiliate him. Gu Huai stared at the out-of-control Yaya with a cold face, listening to every word hit like a knife. But she still wouldn't stop, and kept pushing him for an answer. At that point, Gu Huai finally snapped and slapped Yaya across the face. The sharp crack echoed through the yard, leaving both Su Mengyao and Yaya stunned. Su Mengyao was shocked and furious. She demanded to know if Gu Huai had lost his mind, asking how he could hit his own daughter over an outsider. Yaya was rattled by the icy look in Gu Huai's eyes and burst into tears. Gu Huai took a deep breath, but his voice only got colder. He fired back and asked what kind of daughter calls her own father a nanny and a cripple. Then he finally said everything out loud. From the day they got divorced, he was no longer a servant to the Su family, and definitely not some piece of trash they could control whenever they felt like it. He also warned Su Mengyao that if she didn't raise Yaya properly, that kind of kid was going to get herself into serious trouble one day. Gu Huai made one thing clear for the last time. They were divorced, and Su Mengyao had no right to order him back. He also shattered her arrogance, saying it was because of him that the Su family had been able to rise again in the first place. In the end, he gave her only 2 options. Leave now, or he would call the police. Su Mengyao stood there staring at him, feeling like something had slammed into her chest. For the first time, she truly realized that Gu Huai might really be leaving her. Over the past 7 years, his love for her had been so absolute that she had never once believed he would walk away. In Su Mengyao's mind, no matter how badly she treated him, Gu Huai would never actually leave. But right now, his indifference felt like a wall of distance between them, and for the first time, she felt what it meant to lose control of him. Su Mengyao had always been proud, especially when she was around Gu Huai. She liked feeling superior to him, but now panic spread through her whole body, her face turned pale, and even the way she spoke became sharp and harsh. She immediately started scolding him, saying he had gone way too far. First he vanished for months without a word, and now he was even hitting his own daughter. In her eyes, all of Gu Huai's resistance was just childish drama, all meant to force her to come get him herself. Even now, she still acted like she was doing him a favor, saying she could let the slap go, but once he got back, he would have to write a self-criticism and be locked in the storage room for a week. After saying all that, Su Mengyao turned to leave with Yaya, but she deliberately slowed down, waiting for Gu Huai to lower his head and admit he was wrong. But even after she walked outside the yard, he still showed no regret at all. When she turned around, she saw Gu Huai standing there with Anand's hand in his, staring at them with a kind of coldness she had never seen before. In that moment, Su Mengyao felt a kind of chill that was almost like losing everything, even colder than when her family went bankrupt and Song Yichin abandoned her. Grinding her teeth, she warned Gu Huai that if he left this time, there would never be any chance for them to get back together. Holding her cheek, Yaya jumped in too, viciously saying that if Gu Huai kept this up, then they really wouldn't want him anymore. Gu Huai walked toward the gate in the last light of the setting sun. Su Mengyao still thought he would back down in the end, and even felt a little smug, convinced that as long as she acted like she was really done with him, he would eventually come crawling back. She straightened up without even realizing it, and put that superior look back on her face again. But in the very next second, the smile on her face froze, because Gu Huai only looked at her and said one thing: "Get lost, and never show up in front of me again." As the yard gate slowly shut, Su Mengyao shook with rage, her eyes burning, while her mind churned like a storm. She couldn't understand how Gu Huai could actually dare to treat her like this. And after he led Anand back inside without even sparing them another glance, she was left standing outside the door like a statue, completely stunned. Yaya waved her little fists and kept cursing, yelling that Gu Huai didn't know a good thing when he saw it, and that from now on, he was never allowed to step into that house again. Meanwhile, over in the small town, Gu Huai agreed to meet the female client, because he wanted to give Anand a real home. When he arrived at the seaside cafe and caught sight of the client's profile through the window, he already knew the plan he had in mind probably was not going to work out. The woman sitting by the window had a cool, elegant presence and carried herself with ease. There was none of that calculating business energy about her. If anything, she gave off the vibe of an artist. With the last light of evening falling across him, Gu Huai looked down at his damaged leg, quietly pushed aside the thoughts he shouldn't have been having, and then walked over to her. Zhu Ji looked up and studied Gu Huai. In fact, from the moment he had walked into the cafe, she had already started watching him. She was genuinely curious what kind of designer could create a piece as beautiful as the sea. Pain covered his whole body, and his bloodshot eyes looked terrifying. He took a deep breath. In a hoarse voice, he told her that even being near her made him feel sick, and there was no way they could ever go back. He coldly told Su Mengyao that if she had any conscience left, and if she still remembered everything he had done for the Su family, then she needed to stay out of his world forever, because the moment he thought about the past, he couldn't help but hate her. Then he finally snapped and told her to get lost. Su Mengyao kept shaking her head as tears poured down her face. She wanted to explain, but the second she saw the twisted look on his face, the last bit of hope left in her heart snapped like a string. He turned and walked away, limping into the distance, his broken figure looking even more shattered under the sunset. At that moment, Su Mengyao felt like she could see it. His entire inner world had already fallen apart. Su Mengyao finally broke down and covered her face as she cried. She regretted everything. She even wished she could trade her life to make up for what she had done, but he didn't leave her any chance at redemption. Only then did Su Mengyao truly understand the kind of despair he had felt back then. That pain was carved into his bones, like being dragged straight into hell. Shuji showing up for Annan's birthday caught him completely off guard, but deep down, it made him happy. Ever since he realized that Shuji seemed to understand what was going on, and had chosen to leave the town to make her stance clear, he never once blamed her. If anything, he felt like that was only natural. In his eyes, he was a divorced, disabled man raising Annan on his own. Forget someone as perfect as Shuji. Even an ordinary woman in town probably wouldn't want to be with him. But time was running out, and if he still couldn't find someone to marry, Annan would likely be sent to an orphanage. On the way home, Annan's little face was glowing red with excitement. He held both their hands and happily sang the nursery rhymes he had learned in kindergarten. His eyes welled up with tears, but he had no idea how long this little moment of happiness could last. To him, Annan had already become the only light in his dark world. But finding a woman to marry in such a short time felt basically impossible. After putting Annan to bed, he sat alone in the yard, staring at the empty night sky, not even daring to imagine whether he could keep going if he ever lost him. Then his mind drifted back to that moment in the restaurant when he ran into Su Mengyao and her daughter, and his face instantly tightened. To avoid ruining Annan's birthday, he had pretended not to see them. But what he didn't expect was that Su Mengyao and her daughter still wouldn't leave him alone. He had already made himself perfectly clear. He had finally clawed his way out of hell, yet they still wanted to drag him into another abyss. Just thinking about their twisted faces made him feel irritated. He tried all kinds of ways to calm himself down, but nothing really worked. In the end, he just let out a long sigh and lay back in the chair, staring into space. At this point, he wasn't lacking goals or money. All he wanted was to live life at his own pace. Just then, Shuji quietly walked up beside him. Looking at Annan, she softly asked if he was really planning to give up custody. He just gave a bitter smile and shook his head. To him, not giving up didn't really change anything. In his condition, who would ever want to marry a disabled man? But Shuji asked him one question. What if she was willing? Her voice was so soft it was almost like a whisper. At first he didn't even process it, but when it hit him he froze. The next second he shot upright, disbelief written all over his face. He couldn't believe what he had just heard, so he asked her again. And Shuji's answer was simple. She was willing. The second he heard that, he was overwhelmed with joy. He was so emotional that he couldn't even get the words out. But Shuji quickly made one thing clear. She was only doing this so Annan wouldn't end up in an orphanage. There was nothing else behind it. After hearing that, all he could do was smile bitterly. He knew very well that with someone like Shuji, he had no right to think beyond that. So he immediately promised her that once the paperwork was done, he would file for divorce as soon as possible. After saying that, he stood up and gave her a deep bow. Because at that point, thank you was all he really had. He understood better than anyone how much Shuji was sacrificing to help him. That cost was nothing less than a woman's reputation. And with that, the weight in his chest finally lifted, and for the first time in a while, he felt like he might actually sleep well that night. As she watched him walk back into the room, Shuji's eyes slowly grew distant. She muttered something under her breath, sounding half annoyed and half heartbroken. The next afternoon, when he walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, everything still felt unreal. Then he spent another half day finishing Annan's adoption paperwork, and he couldn't stop smiling. He couldn't wait to tell Annan the good news. That night, the three of them shared a warm and happy meal together. He kept Shuji's kindness close to his heart, and had originally planned to handle the divorce the very next day. But then she got a phone call and had to leave in a hurry. The divorce had to be put on hold, and as he held a marriage certificate in his hand, he couldn't help feeling overwhelmed. No one could have imagined that only half a year after his divorce, he would get married again. In a daze, a ridiculous thought even crossed his mind. If Shuji never divorced him, maybe building a family with her wouldn't be so bad. But the thought disappeared as fast as it came. He knew it was nothing more than wishful thinking. He didn't think he deserved someone like Shuji, and he didn't want to hold her back. After adopting Anan, his life slowly became more stable. But ever since Shuji left that day, he hadn't heard a single thing from her. Every time Anan asked about her, he had no idea what to say. He had tried more than once to reach out to Shuji, only to realize that they had known each other for such a short time that he didn't even have her contact information. And Shuji never contacted him either, which only made him feel more guilty. After all, because of his situation, she ended up carrying the label of a second marriage before she had even truly stepped into married life. He even started to wonder if she was angry at him. Anan gradually adjusted to life in kindergarten and stopped bringing up his new mom as often. But every now and then, when he saw other kids being picked up by their mothers, that little look of envy still showed on his face. He knew that the next time Shuji came back to town, it would probably be for the two of them to go file for divorce. But before he knew it, half a year had already passed. Over those 6 months, Anan had grown a little taller. His chubby little face was still as cute as ever, and life was slowly getting better. The only thing that bothered him was that Su-meng Yao and her daughter had actually moved to town and bought the 2-story house right across from his place. Thankfully, Su-meng Yao knew he hated her and never once came to his door. What really surprised him was Yaya. It was like she had become a different person. She seemed to understand that she had done a lot wrong before, so she would shamelessly come into the yard, sit on a little stool, and quietly do her homework. And he stopped trying to chase her away. After all, she was still his biological daughter, so he silently allowed her to come and go. Even so, her change still caught him off guard. It was obvious that over the past 6 months, Su-meng Yao had put a lot of effort into raising her daughter. At the very least, Yaya was no longer arrogant like before, and she had stopped calling him a nanny or a cripple. Yaya had tried several times to call him dad, but he never responded, and eventually she didn't dare say it anymore. From that point on, Su-meng Yao started dropping her daughter off in the yard almost every day before heading to work alone. He saw that Yaya wasn't making a scene and was actually being very well behaved. He couldn't help but feel emotional. After all, she was still his daughter. No matter how badly he'd been hurt before, he still couldn't truly ignore her. Just like that, another month went by. Every time Yaya stood in the yard and saw him giving all that fatherly love to another child, she couldn't help but feel jealous. She wanted so badly to run up and hug him, but she still remembered what her mom had said. Until he forgave her, she couldn't just go near him. That night, he made dinner and called Anan to eat. But Yaya, like always, picked up her backpack and got ready to leave. Every time before this, if he didn't ask her to stay, all she could do was quietly go back across the street and sit by herself at the window. All she could do was watch her own dad love another child from a distance. She had cried, thrown tantrums, and made a fuss before, but in the end, she slowly went silent. At her age, all she wanted was a father's love. But even though her dad was right there, he felt like a stranger. Then, for the first time ever, he asked if she wanted to eat with them. Yaya froze when she heard that. A few seconds later, she rushed toward the table in surprise and excitement. Holding her bowl in both hands, Yaya stared blankly at the food on the table. Back then, she used to look down on meals like this. She had even slammed a plate of food onto his head before. But after almost a whole year, she was finally eating her dad's cooking again. She kept her head down, shoveling food into her mouth while tears kept falling. After behaving herself for half a year, she could finally step back into her dad's home and eat a hot meal again. He let out a quiet sigh. Deep down, he still hoped Yaya would understand that he could never go back to loving and caring for her the way other fathers do. When Yaya looked up, her face was already covered in tears. Through sobs, she said she understood. She knew her dad had once given her so much love, but she had thrown all of it away herself. Everything happening now was the result of not knowing how to treasure it. Then she carefully asked if she could still come over for dinner in the future. Even if he didn't want her inside, she said she'd be okay just sitting out in the yard. At that moment, he took a small cake out of the fridge and gently placed it in front of Yaya. She instantly froze, her eyes full of confusion and disbelief, while he simply gave her a faint smile. It turned out that day was Yaya's birthday, and he had finally said the words she had been waiting so long to hear. Happy birthday. Yaya bit her lip and stared at the birthday cake in front of her. Then her emotions completely broke loose. She threw herself into his arms and burst into heartbreaking sobs. He hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still didn't push her away. He just gently patted Yaya on the shoulder and let her cry in his arms. For the first time in a long while, Yaya felt her father's embrace again. At the end of the day, he just couldn't truly hate Yaya. She was still too young. She had only been used by the adults around her to hurt him, so he could choose to forgive her. But when it came to Su-meng Yao, he couldn't be that forgiving. He knew she was standing right outside the yard, and that she had deliberately sent Yaya over on her birthday. Her intentions couldn't have been more obvious. Unfortunately for her, she wasn't going to get what she wanted. Then he stood up, walked out into the yard, and looked calmly at a clearly flustered Su-meng Yao. He told her they needed to talk. Su-meng Yao walked over like a child who had done something wrong, then quietly stopped in front of him and looked up at him. This was the first time in half a year that they had stood this close to each other, yet it already felt like a lifetime had passed. Over the past 6 months, Su-meng Yao had even moved one of her branch offices to this small town just to win him back. But as time went on, she didn't back off. If anything, her feelings only grew stronger and more intense. Again and again, she had tried to get close to him and work her way back into his life. No matter what he asked of her, she accepted it without hesitation, because deep down, she knew she owed him all of it. After all, she had been the one who failed to value him when she still had him. Now, even getting a few words from him had become a luxury. Su-meng Yao opened her mouth like she wanted to explain something, but he just shook his head first. He calmly told her that he no longer hated her. But because of that, she was basically no different from a stranger to him now. He had once truly loved her, and had been willing to give her everything. In the end, though, all he got back was pain. Over and over again. He had nearly died twice in that villa before finally giving up and walking away for good. At first, when he left, he really was full of hatred. He couldn't understand why someone he had given so much to would treat him like he meant nothing. But after returning to the seaside and living a peaceful life with Anan, that resentment slowly started to fade. Little by little, he realized that holding on to all that hatred was nothing but emotional self-destruction. It wasn't worth it. So he started trying to make peace with himself, and eventually he understood that not everything from the past could be blamed on Su-meng Yao. He had been the one who threw himself into that love with no way back. He had loved her like a moth flying straight into a flame, giving everything he had. But she had every right not to respond, and every right not to accept it. That marriage and that path had been his own choice. The good thing was, he had finally made it out of that mess. So he told Su Mengyao clearly that he didn't love her anymore. Waiting for him would never change anything. Instead of clinging on, she should let it go and move on. Su Mengyao didn't say a word, but tears were already streaming down her face. This was the first time he had taken the initiative to say so much to her, yet every single word cut like a knife. She was devastated, but there was nothing she could say back. She looked up at the night sky, and all she could see in her mind were the happy memories they once shared. With a bitter smile, she admitted that of course she knew he didn't love her anymore, because she had once seen what it looked like when he truly loved someone. But now, the one hopelessly trapped in love had become her. She couldn't control these feelings, and she couldn't stop thinking about him. Even if all she could do was look at him from afar, even if it hurt, she was still willing to accept it. Only now did Su Mengyao truly understand what it had felt like when he loved her back then. That kind of pain could drive a person crazy. But by now, he had already become a part of her life that she could never cut out. She didn't even dare hope he'd come back anymore. All she wanted was for them to live their own lives, while she quietly held onto her feelings. Looking at the determination on Su Mengyao's face, he knew very well that with her personality, there was no way she would give up easily. But what did that matter now? Love that comes too late is worthless. The wounds she had left in his heart had already torn him apart. Too bad Su Mengyao still doesn't realize what she really did wrong. After saying that, he turned and walked back into the yard, done dealing with Su Mengyao. If she still couldn't wake up to reality, he'd leave this place for good, somewhere she'd never find him. From that point on, Su Mengyao kept her word. She stopped bothering him and chose to wait in silence. And just like that, another month went by. Little by little, he got used to Su Mengyao living across from him. Whenever she brought her daughter over, he'd just greet her with a polite smile, like any normal neighbor. Nothing more. During that time, he was creating, while also taking care of the two kids. Honestly, Anon and Yaya got along pretty well. Yaya had changed a lot too. She wasn't bossy or bratty like before, and she had even learned how to care for other people. Every time she came into the yard, she was careful and timid. She was so well behaved it was surprising. Even so, he still couldn't love her the way he loved Anon. Yaya knew why, so she never asked for more. All she wanted was for him not to send her away. As for Sujuyi, he had been gone for over half a year without a single message. Sometimes that person still crossed his mind. He had thought that as time went on, he'd slowly forget all of it. After all, they were never really from the same world. One look at Shuji, and it was obvious he came from money, probably no less than Su Mengyao once did. By now, he wasn't hurting over it anymore. But Shuji's continued disappearance meant the divorce kept dragging on, and that couldn't go on forever. That day was just like any other. After putting Anon to bed, he walked Yaya back across the way. It was the first time he'd ever taken her back himself. When they reached the door, Yaya suddenly stopped, softly called him Dad, and said goodbye. Then she looked up at him with hopeful eyes and carefully asked if she could give him a hug. He froze for a second, but he didn't say no. Yaya wrapped her arms around him, her tiny shoulders shaking as tears of joy and hurt rolled down her face. He watched her go inside, then turned to head back to his own yard. But just as he reached the door, a familiar voice called out from behind him, like someone returning after a long time away. His whole body stiffened and he spun around. There stood Shuji, smiling at him with a huge suitcase in hand. In that moment, it felt like time itself had stopped. With a grin, Shuji asked if he wasn't happy to see him back. That finally snapped him out of it. He hurried over and nervously told him of course he was welcome, then quickly invited him inside. The two of them walked into the yard together, chatting and laughing. Meanwhile, in the two-story house across the way, Su Mengyao stood by the window, slowly closed her eyes, and let the tears run free. Yaya looked at her mom, let out a soft sigh, and gently told her not to be sad anymore, because at least she still had her. But the bitterness in Su Mengyao's heart didn't fade. Regret kept flooding in, but even then, what could she really do? Late that night, Su Mengyao was still standing in her upstairs room, staring at the two people in the yard across from her, almost like she was torturing herself by refusing to look away. Right then, his face carried a smile she would never see again, and his eyes were shining with a light she'd already lost. The two of them really did look perfect together. Out in the yard, he and Shuji sat side by side, and for a moment, neither of them said a word. In the end, he was the one who broke the silence, asking if Shuji had come back to finalize the divorce. But Shuji shot back with a question of his own. Did he really want that badly to divorce him? He was caught off guard and quickly shook his head, saying that wasn't what he meant. He just felt bad for holding Shuji back for so long, and he didn't want to keep dragging things out and stop him from moving on. Hearing that, Shuji let out a quiet sigh, and asked if he really wasn't curious about where he'd been for the past 6 months, and what he'd been doing. Truthfully, he'd wanted to ask for a long time. He just always felt like it was too personal to bring up. Then Shuji finally told him the truth. He had spent the last several months expanding business in Europe. Also, he could gain enough power and say in his own life that his family would never be able to interfere with his marriage again. Hearing that, he went completely still. Deep down, he could already sense what Shuji meant, but he still couldn't quite believe it. It all felt too unreal, like something that could never actually happen. But Shuji just gave him a playful smile, and calmly told him that from now on, his marriage would be his own decision. At that moment, his palms were sweating from nerves. Shuji looked straight into his eyes, and softly asked if he believed in love at first sight. No matter how slow he might have been, he understood now. This was Shuji confessing to him. Everything felt dreamlike and unreal, and Shuji had already stepped right up in front of him and held out a hand. With a serious look on his face, Shuji told him, from here on out, let's take care of each other. In that instant, his eyes turned red. A love he thought had long burned out suddenly came roaring back to life. The moonlight spilled over them like water, soft and quiet, while the full moon hung high above, and the distance between them slowly disappeared. Winter by the sea wasn't all that cold, but there was still a little chill in the air. Then spring came, life started blooming again, and he and Shuji finally made their relationship official. They may have already been legally married, but it was only after that one line from here on out, let's take care of each other, that their real life together truly began. From then on, Su Mengyao left the town, and never came back. Later, Yaya quietly told him that her mom hadn't dared to stay, because she was too jealous of him and Aunt Shu being together, and she was afraid that jealousy might drive her to do something irrational. But after hearing all that, he felt almost nothing. To him, Su Mengyao was already part of the past, someone who couldn't stir up even the smallest ripple in his heart anymore. The truth was, she had probably known how this would end a long time ago. She just couldn't let go. The moment he chose divorce, there was no way the two of them were ever going back. On this day, Shuji had his arm linked with his as they walked together along the beach. In the glow of the setting sun, both of them were wrapped in warm golden light. At last, he had found the right person to spend his life with. Facing the ocean, with spring in the air, this was probably what happiness really looked like.